Welcome into the SBR NCAA basketball bet buffet. I am Drew Martin alongside big man on campus. Find him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. Jeff, welcome in. How you doing today, buddy?
Doing good, Drew. Hope you had a nice holiday.
Yeah, I did. I'm actually down here in Florida, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all of the SBR followers, listeners, watchers. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully, enjoying a safe and happy holiday with friends and family. Jeff, where are you at? Up in Pennsylvania?
Yep, I'm in the Philadelphia area. Very nice day yesterday. Christmas always a very nice holiday. Very laid back around my house. Open some gifts, get Santa's all the Santa's goodies, and yeah, watch a little basketball, watch a little. I actually played a little Monopoly yesterday. I haven't played that in many years. So yeah, very nice holiday as always, Drew.
A little family Monopoly game, huh? Are you guys more of a, I guess, Christmas Eve family or a Christmas Day family, or both?
I would say we're both. I mean, my family has generally a very big party the day before Christmas, kind of like friends of ours and people like that. But during our actual holiday, it's just my immediate family. My brother's getting married next year, so yeah, I would say both days. We have a nice meal for Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day is very. My mother's like very all encompassed. Like she's big with Christmas. Like everybody's got to like sit there and open gifts one by one, and it's very drawn out. So it's a nice day generally, though. But no, we were just I don't know bored, I guess, and Monopoly was there, and it's a long game, so you kind of have to prepare for that. But no, it's a good holiday though, one of the better ones of the year for sure.
Yeah, I agree, man. Thanksgiving, Christmas, they're all good stuff. I know down there in Costa Rica, people working hard. We got Larry Hoover producing the show. Appreciate him. Merry Christmas to him. But yeah, big man. I mean, this is the bet buffet, mostly college basketball focused. You're one of the best minds in the college basketball betting business. Know just about as much as anybody. And no games on the docket today. A few tomorrow before we get back into the swing of college basketball, getting full force. And we will be having this show every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern. And guys on the live chat, Juan, Two Chains, thanks guys for chiming in here. Whatever you guys want to hear about, feel free to ask a question in the chat box. And if you're liking the content, please give us a thumbs up. It helps us out a lot. But big man, really wanted to start it off with asking your betting philosophy this time of year. We kind of got a lot of college basketball teams kind of taking a break. What you're looking for in teams to bet on, and also what you're looking for in teams to fade going forward in the next couple weeks.
I definitely think it's important that you understand kind of where you are in the season right now with many of these teams. A lot of them obviously coming out of the holiday season. Some of whom played in tournaments, maybe in Hawaii or somewhere else, and really just getting acclimated to the fact that it's a conference season as opposed to non-conference. I mean, towards the end of non-conference, it's really about getting out of places with wins. It's very difficult, laying a big number late in the non-conference season because your teams just don't care as much about, really impressing and things like that. They just want to get out of Dodge a lot of the time. And if you followed, the last week of non-conference right before the holidays, there were a lot of big underdogs cashing. A team like Xavier, who goes into that game against Marshall. They're playing a big 21-point number. You have some injuries. You definitely give a guy a little longer to mend himself back, and coaches aren't going to be as as stepping the foot on the gas as normal. So, I always look at the same things. Whether it's a non-conference or conference game, approaching it how I feel. Where you look at some of these teams, and the non-conference records can really be. Look, if you're looking at college basketball and solely capping off of a team's record, wins loss, not really a good idea. I mean, you look at a lot of these teams, particularly a team that I was very high on before the season in Oakland University out of Michigan. They're a team that if you look at their win loss record, 8-5, good, not great. But then you look at some of the teams that they played. I mean, you've played Michigan State, you played Kansas, you played Syracuse. So get playing games like that's really going to prepare you for a conference schedule that's not going to be as tough. And if you're looking at wins and losses, another team, Middle Tennessee State. I mean, these are mid majors that are challenging themselves, preparing for the season, and you're going to get some numbers that are going to be bettable in the conference season. Texas Arlington, another team. That's why, for me, doing a lot of this work early on really prepares you for the conference season because you can zero in on teams that have been good to you, stick with them because they've already played some really tough games in the schedule. These non-conference or these conference games are just going to be the cherry on top. But you look at Middle Tennessee. I mean, look at this schedule: Murray State, Belmont, Florida Gulf Coast twice, Vanderbilt, Mississippi, Auburn, Princeton, USC, Miami, Florida. If that's not a good non-conference schedule, I don't know what the hell is. This is a very good basketball team. This might be the best team Kermit Davis has had, better than the team that went and beat Michigan State a few years ago. This is a very good basketball team. And all these teams, by playing some of these tough teams, they're preparing themselves good for conference play and then into March.
In big man, you bring up Middle Tennessee, and they are a good team. But my question to you would be: in years past, a profile like Middle Tennessee, you bring up their schedule, really good. They also beat Vanderbilt, and they beat Mississippi, they beat Princeton and Florida Gulf Coast twice. So, how much of that do you think will be factored into the lines going forward? Are you going to have a high price tag on a team like Middle Tennessee, or are you going to have some value betting on them going forward in the next
No,
couple of
I think you're
weeks?
definitely going to have a price tag on them for sure. I mean, particularly with that basketball team. I mean, they're in a conference USA that's not a great conference. I mean, there's a couple good teams, but I'll be interested to see. I mean, I mean, they obviously have their power rankings. Teams that I just mentioned, you are going to have to pay a premium for, but you definitely want to look at some of the ATS numbers. For instance, Texas Arlington's a good team as far as that's concerned. They have over the last several years under Scott Cross with Kevin Hervey and Eric Neal there, they have been a notoriously good against the spread team. Really, for as long as I can remember. I mean, even in conference, laying big numbers. I mean, they're just killing these big numbers, and you're gonna have to pay a premium. But I wouldn't be that obliged to not lay a lot of these numbers. I mean, you got to remember. I mean, some of these conferences are poor, poor, poor. I actually have a team, a mid-major team that I want to let everyone know about, kind of off the beaten path, but it's out of a conference that I've respected for a long time. I've always made a lot of good money in it. I'm looking at South Dakota, the Coyotes. They're a really good bet this year, and I think going forward, they're 8-2-1 against the spread so far this season. I think they're a team that's going to roll through this conference. There's some good teams in the Summit: South Dakota State, Fort Wayne, teams like that. But this South Dakota team, Drew, really doing some great things. You look at a couple of their losses. I mean, they were right in the game against TCU, lost by 5, hung in against Duke University as well. You look at their numbers. I mean, 82 points a game, 49% shooting, 74% from the line, 37% from three. When you're backing underdogs or a team in this kind of conference laying points, they're going to keep their foot on the gas. They're a good offensive group, and they have a guy that can take the game over in Matt Mooney. They're a team out of the Summit League I would keep my eye on. You're going to get good numbers for them. Generally, odds makers aren't as adept to grading that conference and putting the right lines out. You're going to see a lot of lines in that conference with them, probably in the 6 or lower mark. They just don't really know a ton about it, and I think they're going to maybe look at their record or whatever and say, well, they're a good team, but we're not going to lay big numbers out on them. You're going to get some value on South Dakota. Make sure you're keying in on some teams like that out of the small conferences that you can kind of pick off.
And big man, you bring up the Summit League. So first off, I didn't know South Dakota, the state of South Dakota, really dominated college basketball in that area. I mean, both South Dakota and South Dakota State are what 11-5 and 12-4 out the gate. But one thing is, the Summit League boarded. Can you bet on all of these games, or only the TV
You can.
ones?
No, you can. They're going to have line games every week. I've actually I want to make a comment to what you just said about that area of the United States. I got to tell you, they got some really good sports programs up in those areas. I mean, Minnesota's had a
Yeah.
nice basketball season. The South Dakota schools, North Dakota State's always tough. Even the North Dakota basketball program, that group, they've had some tough games. Yeah, football's a big thing up there as well. South Dakota State, North Dakota State. Yeah, no, they're always going to have line games. Fort Wayne's a team out of the Summit League that, there was a year or two ago where I'm not kidding, Drew. They might have been the most profitable team I've ever had in any sport. I mean, they were they were just unbelievable against the spread. And it's really translated. I've always had a real good read on this conference. The odds makers I've also learned aren't particularly good at lining this conference either, because if you go up and down this conference year after year, there are a lot of really good against the spread teams. And over unders are another money maker here as well. Overs, they generally are putting these numbers around 150. When you have teams that are, you go up and down, they'll play a ton of defense. There's a lot of money to be made in this conference. One of my favorites as far as out of all 30 plus of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at South Dakota real quick here on Ken Palm. I mean, they've gone 90 plus a bunch. They put up 80 points against Duke. Duke put up 96 against them. So it looks like they're 44th in the nation in terms of pace, and also, pretty much right at 100 in terms of offensive efficiency. So yeah, you got them pegged as an over team here.
I would have this. I would more or less say I have it pegged as an over conference generally. The big problem is IUPUI left the conference, which kind of sucks. They were a good whipping boy a lot of the time for big teams going in and scoring 90, 100 points. But it's a conference generally that is high scoring. Oral Roberts and IPFW and some of those teams. I wouldn't say there's a particular over team, but if you're asking me what do I like about South Dakota, for me it's more of a side perspective. I think they're going to do a lot of good things in that conference. Another team that is getting some national press generally, but they're not a top 10 team to many. But you could make the case that at some point they will be, and I think they're going to be, as always, one of the better defense teams in the country. Virginia, I mean, you have to continue to mention them when you talk about, a top level team. I mean, they're not getting a ton of respect this year, but they're 8-1 against the spread. Their defense is suffocating, as many know. Have they been tested a ton? Not really. They're going to be tested a lot more coming up here. You got to wonder, is their offense good enough? But Tony Bennett does some amazing things there. Um, they're only allowing opponents to shoot 36%. That's pretty unbelievable. And if you're a defensive guy like me, who I really enjoy defense, I like to watch these teams just suffocate another team defensively. I mean, they've beaten some really good mid-major teams. They're going to be tested coming up here. You got Virginia Tech, you got UNC. You never really get a night off in the American or the ACC conference. But they're a team ATS to look out for. They're just so suffocating, and they've been real good against the spread so far, Virginia.
And do you ever look to bet Virginia from a totals perspective? Because I'm looking at this Wisconsin game. Did they really hold them to 37 points, or is that a misprint?
No, no, they definitely did. The way they play defense with that pack line, Tony Bennett defense, it's pretty impressive. I urge everyone, go out and watch them play defense once in a while. It's impressive. Yeah, they held Wisconsin to 37. I mean, on the regular, they're holding teams under 50. I mean, last two games they held Hampton to 48, Savannah to 47. I mean, those are very low level teams, but still, when you can hold it, I mean, they've held a team under 40 a couple times, and then teams under 50, 4 or 5 different times. It's pretty amazing. As far as an under, I mean, generally they're shaded really low. I mean, you're going to see totals with them in the one early 120s, late teens, 116, 118. They really take the value out for you. But yeah, there'll be a couple. I mean, you may be eyeing looking at Syracuse, Virginia. That could be a good under. I mean, both those teams struggle at times to score, and both play that really suffocating defense. I think Syracuse, this is the best defense they've had in some time. There'll be some value taking some of these unders. You just got to be willing to hold your nose and bet a 119 under.
Yeah, so sometimes it can be hard to watch, but I feel like there could be some value there, big man. I mean, so that's Syracuse, Virginia. I guess Ken Palm has it pegged at right about, literally like 112. So I'm guessing Chris or Bet Online will come out with what, a high teens, so maybe like 117. Is that what you could see? And if that's it, could you see betting the
Yeah, and
under?
yeah, and I might just auto bet it just to do it. It kind of reminds you a lot of like if you have, I don't know if you remember, like if Clayton Kershaw pitches, he plays, pitches against Scherzer. I mean, we've seen sixes before, as far as totals. It's kind of similar. I mean, you know, it, it's almost like a snow game in the NFL. I mean, it's almost a foregone conclusion it's going to be low scoring. I mean, unless again the cardinal rule is a lot of this stuff will play, but I mean if you get the right referee and he's foul happy, which anymore in college basketball they've come out and said the goal over the last year or two is to make the games more interesting. And it's been a common quote from the president of the NCAA that they're fouling more because people are interested in higher scoring games. He's come out and said that in press conferences. So they're calling fouls more. You know, I'm not saying it makes the game more interesting. It definitely doesn't, but they're more inclined to call fouls nowadays because they want higher scoring games. Virginia basketball is not sexy. No one sits there like me or another basketball purist and says, "Wow, this is an amazing thing to watch." I see the allure in it. Most fans don't. Most fans like action. They like a 98, 93 kind of game, and so does the NCAA. But I respect Bennett for always putting defense into the forefront. They'll get better. They're pretty good offensively too. I mean, they have a couple guys that are really good players. But another thing, Drew, I have to mention. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention Villanova. I think Villanova, and it pains me to say this because I hate Villanova, but I do respect Villanova. I don't think there's a more complete team in the country than Villanova, and I'm not surprising anyone because they are the number one team. But if you ask me right now who I think is going to win the whole thing, it's either going to be Duke or Villanova to me, and I'd give the small edge to Villanova. I think Villanova is a team that they're cohesive, they're efficient all together, they're extremely deep, they're well coached, they've won the title before. Some of these kids were young at that point. You get Spellman in there; he's a guy that I've seen play live. He's a kid that can play down low. He can pick and pop on the outside. Brunson, if not for Trae Young's the best player in the country. I could see a situation, Drew, where I don't know if they'll lose more than one or two games. I think the Big East is incredibly down this year. I'm not in love with anyone really there. Maybe Xavier, but you have five guys that can score 11 points or more in a game. They're just so deep. They remind me a lot last year of Gonzaga, and I think that's going to be what their season is going to be similar to. Just roll through their conference, get to the tournament. They really just take care of business in every game. They have a little bit to prove after last year, after losing to Wisconsin in the Elite Eight, I believe it was. I don't think you can get a more efficient or perfect team than Villanova.
And you bring up, Villanova in the Big East from a matchup standpoint, big man. Is there anyone you could see them dropping games to? You brought up Xavier. What about maybe Creighton or Seton Hall? Any of these teams you think can get an advantage matchup wise?
Well, I think Creighton can, but I think one thing about Villanova that we have to point out is they're a lot better defensively than they've been in years past. I mean, they've really gotten to the point where they are a lockdown defensive team. I mean, they've really made it tough. I mean, the only team that to me worries is Xavier, maybe Creighton, but I don't think Creighton's good enough down low or defensively. Providence has had a myriad of injuries. Butler's not really gotten going under Lavelle Jordan. Um, St. John's is interesting. They can slow you down and they play really good defense. And when they get Levette back, him and Shamari Pons are really good together. But Seton Hall, maybe, but I don't trust them because they don't have a point guard. All these teams have issues. The only saving grace that the Big East has this year is that Villanova has no true home games. All their home games this year are played at Wells Fargo Center, where the Sixers play. Their home stadium at Villanova is getting worked on right now, so they don't have a true home game. All their games are at either Wells Fargo or on the road. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. But I don't really put a lot of stock into any high level, especially at Villanova. They can win anywhere. I mean, they've been a road warrior really over the last 5 years. They can go anywhere and win. And a place like MSG or Wells Fargo is like their second home. So yeah, there are some teams that are interesting, but I just don't see a lot in this conference that makes me too worried.
Okay, big man. Well, I was thinking what we could hit the chat box and then maybe come back for any like closing comments. That sound good to you? Or you want to throw out anything else right now?
Yeah, just want to throw out some things just real quick. I mentioned Oakland University. I gave them some slack. I mean, over the course of the season, they're going to have some trouble defending Oakland, but they have a really good home court advantage, and they have three players, Drew, that are averaging 20 points or more. They brought in Kendrick Nunn from Illinois. He's been a great addition, and Greg Campy maybe might work some magic, Drew. I've heard through the grapevine he is highly interested in LiAngelo Ball coming to Oakland, which I don't know if that can happen. I don't think it can, judging by what he's already done, the Ball family. But there are people that want the kid, and it would be interesting if a team could get him. It won't happen, but Campy's an interesting guy. He's a great coach, and he's a guy that I think long term Oakland will be fine in that conference. And then one
And
other
big
one,
big man.
UNLV. Yeah, what do you got? Yep.
No, I was just gonna say you bring up the ball. Didn't he sign a contract professionally in Europe? Can you still come back?
He he did, but I believe again it's questionable if he'll be over there for very long. It is, I believe, now that he's out of the NCAA. I don't believe he could come back. I don't know unless he's not taking anything. I don't. I got to read into more of the situation on if he's
Okay.
eligible to play anywhere. I don't believe he is, but I, I wish he would because I think a lot of teams would clamor to get him on their team. I think he would help a mid-major team surely, but again, we don't run his PR clearly, or I'm sure it'd be a lot different. Um, UNLV is another one, Drew. Interesting. Houston and McCoy are really good. They have a good point guard in Jordan Johnson, well coached. I like UNLV a lot this year. They're going to be a team out of the Mountain West. I think is going to do some things. But yeah, I mean, sure to answer any questions here. If you have any, basketball related questions, I see some soccer things here. Um, do I like Tottenham today? They already played, dude. They won 5-2. Talat might have not seen that. They've already played there, cuz. Um,
Yeah,
Nova's currently plus
we got
Nova's currently plus 800. Yeah, I mean that's pretty good value, 8-1 still.
to win the championship. So you would think that might be worth a shot here.
Yeah, I think they're a lock to make the final four. Honestly, I don't. You have to play a perfect game to beat Villanova. You just do. I mean, and like I said, I don't see any real deficiencies with them. I mean, they're really deep. I mean, they have a little of everything. They have a fantastic point guard. And Drew, they're 9-3 against the spread. So, I mean, they're covering pretty nice numbers here. And like I said, I just don't see any real deficiencies with.
Okay. Well, let's hit the chat box a little bit here. We got Juan, Two Chains. What's up, guys? Guan White. Hey, man, what's up? Huge slate on Thursday. Yeah, remember we have the roundtable tomorrow too, which now has a slot for BMOC to go over some college basketball as well. So he might have something on Thursday's slot on tomorrow's roundtable. Kevin White jumping in. Need a Kansas take. How good is this new guy they're bringing into the rotation? What do you think, BMOC? Anything on Kansas?
Well, I mean, they're going to need him to play well. I mean, they're getting a lot of new guys. Sam Cutcliffe from Arizona State, I believe, transferred there as well. Listen, they need all the help they can get down low. So I think everyone coming in, I think it's a pretty nice marriage for that group. Look, he's a physical kid. He's a strong kid. He's a five-star forward. Billy Preston hasn't played a minute for Kansas, and he was a top McDonald's All-American, which he's had some recruiting question marks, eligibility stuff. They haven't had him play, so getting D'Souza in is big. I mean, they need him to get in there. They need him to play well. He was very highly rated. They're going to need all the help they can get. Azubuike is very good, but you need kind of that guy to go with them there. And this kid could be that. Like I said, I think it's a pretty good relationship. Um, again, I don't really ever have any question marks on will this player work. He's going to work. The rich get richer seemingly. If you're talking about, Kansas, is South Carolina a bet against this year? I don't know if they're a bet against. I mean, they obviously lost a lot last year. They're not going to be a team they were last year. Frank Martin's had some. I don't know if you read his tweets, but he's getting in fights with fans on Twitter about not showing up to the games. I mean, the love affair for South Carolina basketball went away quick. They have some talent there, but they're going to be a bottom feeder in the SEC, unfortunately. Uh, who do you like in the SEC? In the SEC, I still think Florida's very good. They've had kind of a tough stretch. My top four, I'll go. What do we think, Drew? I'll go Kentucky one. I think long term they're extremely talented. You're not going to tell me no one's more talented than them. I'll go Kentucky. I'll go Arkansas. This is in no particular. Kentucky, Arkansas, Florida, and
What about
Texas
A&M?
A&M. I'll throw
Yeah.
them in the top four. Top five, I'll throw Alabama in at number five. I think they're really talented. Sexton had a poor game the other night, but those four teams I mentioned are definitely the cream of the crop. But this whole conference is very good. I mean, I still think there's some Tennessee's talented, Mississippi State's talented, Missouri obviously is 10-3 and 7-0 at home. So they're a team. It just would have been so nice if Michael Porter was still there. That would have been huge. Someone asked about Texas Southern if they're a good conference bet. their games aren't lined very often, that conference, the SWAC, so I wouldn't really put much stock into that. You're gonna have to wait towards till the end of the season, the conference tournaments to bet on that. Do I have any thoughts on? I don't have any thoughts on tomorrow's card right now. I haven't been able to cap anything. Um, what college football game do I like the most? I think Drew and I both mentioned we liked. I don't know about Drew. I like Northern Illinois. That would be the game I would be interested in. I don't really have a good feel on the other game. ASU, are they a Final Four team? Um, are they to me? Yeah. Do I think they'll get there? I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, they're a new team. It would be quite the run if they were able to do it. They're undefeated, which look, I don't knock anything they've done. They've beaten some really good basketball teams, and I take them very seriously. As many know, I have a big ticket on them, 100 to 1. San Diego State was a big win. Xavier, Kansas in Kansas, and Drew. I mean, if you're going to win the Pac-12, this would be the year to do it. Arizona's had some problems. Oregon's had some. I don't think they're very good. Arizona's or UCLA and USC have been kind of topsy turvy. If Arizona State's going to win anything, it'd be this year. Do I think they'll make the Final Four? I'm going to hope they do, but I think it's a little early to ask that. But I think it's the best year possible to win this conference and make a run. When will their first loss come? I'm thinking. What do you think, Drew? Probably this coming Saturday. I have a feeling they're going to go to Arizona and lose. That's a tough game out of the gate at McHale Center. So I think the undefeated is going to be for a short time here. Drew, do we have any other questions?
I found one that I was intrigued by. Do we have, this is from Christopher Carter. Any bet against in the WCC late night games? Love those late night games, like a lot of people do. So maybe, do you have any bet against or bet on in those kind of West Coast late night conferences, BMOC?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, right now, Gonzaga and St. Mary's are clearly going to be your big boys there. But as far as bet against, I mean, I think Pepperdine's pretty poor. A team to bet on, San Diego. They're actually a decent side. They're well coached there. Portland, Pepperdine. I don't think San Francisco is very good. Pacific has major problems. Um, listen, I'll be honest. I wouldn't really equate to you just wait till the late night games to try to find angles. Are there angles in this conference? Yes, but with Gonzaga and St. Mary's, you're going to have to pay a big premium to bet on them. But a San Diego might be worth a bet. I mean, they're a team that's improved a ton. Nice little home stadium there. They've been kind of in the depths for a while. They had a sports betting scandal about 10 years ago that they had to kind of get through. They had players shaving points. I don't know if you remember that, Drew. It was their top leading scorer. He was involved with sports betting. He was shaving points. So they had to kind of get through all that. And yeah, they're a contender again. So are they going to win this conference? No, but I don't think they're a bad bet a lot of the time late night. They have a pretty solid team, the Toreros. So I'd more or less look towards them. Um,
Okay.
what else do you got, Drew? Portland State's not in that
Um,
conference. Portland State's in the Big Sky, Guan White. They're not in the West Coast.
and what about how many ACC teams do you see dancing? Do you see 10?
Uh, that's always a
And
tough
what about the
question. How many do I see?
SEC?
Yeah, no, the SEC is going to have a lot of teams. I think the Big 12 is the strongest conference, but all these conferences are very good. As far as ACC, let me take a look here. Boston College, no. I would say I'm not as in love with the ACC as others are. I mean, I would say there's your Notre Dame, Clemson, no, I don't think they'll dance. Miami, Duke, 4, 5, 6. I would say 9. I don't know if there's 10. Boston College isn't. Pittsburgh's not. Clemson's not. Uh, Wake, definitely not. I don't think NC State will. Yeah, I think 9, probably 9 or so. Uh,
And in
yeah, that's
and in the SEC, big
about.
man, how many do you think?
Well, there's definitely 5 for sure. Florida for sure. Arkansas is a guarantee. Missouri, I think, will get in. Vandy, no. Alabama, yes. South Carolina, no. Texas A&M, yes. Ole Miss. I mean, if they continue to play like they have been over the last 2 or 3 games, maybe, but they're gonna have to improve their defense significantly. I'll say no. Auburn. I think Auburn will be a real thorn in team sides this year. Georgia, I think they're a bubble team. LSU, no. Tennessee, yes. they're a good conference. I mean, there's a lot of teams that I'm right kind of on the fence against. Maybe a Georgia, could they be a? They're 9-2. They look great against Temple over the weekend. There's a lot of good teams. There's not a stepping stone really in this group. If you could tell me, Drew, one team in this conference that's a guaranteed win, I'd like to hear it. I don't see a guarantee. I don't go to this game and say that is a guaranteed win. Maybe South Carolina,
Maybe Vanderbilt.
but I mean, sure. I mean, Vandy's a dreadful against the spread team. I don't think they've covered one number this year. I believe they're 0-9
Yeah.
against the spread. So, I mean, betting wise, betting against them, yes. Do I go in there saying that is a guarantee? It's if they get hot shooting, I don't think it's ever a guarantee. But that's what you're getting in conferences like this. That's why, to me, the ACC should not be mentioned as a top conference. They have they have stepping stones like Pittsburgh and Wake. Clemson stinks. I mean, long term, there's not a lot of good teams. There's some great teams, but there's also some stepping stones. A group that the Big 12 or the other conferences don't have. So I would say that's
Okay.
SEC's the second strongest conference. Does UTA make the tournament? Yes, finally. It's been about 3 years now, but yes, they will make the tournament. Sure. What's your opinion on Michigan State? I think they're going to roll through the Big Ten this year. You talk about another bad conference year, the Big Ten. I mean, what a shit show that conference is. I mean, Ohio State, they're solid, but they're not going to last long term. Penn State's really dropped off. Purdue and Michigan State are the big boys there, and Michigan State's a bigger boy than everyone else. Purdue's good, but I don't I don't think long term they could be Michigan State. Maryland, Minnesota, they've been disappointing. Northwestern disappointing as well. There's been a lot of disappointment. Look out for Illinois. That's the one team. If you're a Big Ten team during the year, that's a tough trip. Brad Underwood's a good coach. They have some real talent on that team. That's a team that I would look out for. Illinois. They're going to beat a good team or two this year in Champaign. That's the team I'd look out for.
Damn, good stuff, big man. This was awesome. We didn't even have any games today. We went 30 minutes, good content, almost 100 people watching. So we
Give
appreciate
me
you out
one or
there
two
tuning
more.
in,
I don't want to
guys.
end this. Give me one or two
All
more
right.
here. What else do you got? Keep firing.
Let's see. Should we? Clemson is 22 Ken Palm, 11-1. So obviously,
I don't really
uh,
care about
m-
Ken Palm. I've said that
do you
before.
really
I
not?
could care less. I've never read it in my life.
Big
Never read it
man,
in my life.
Ken Palm has a lot to do. Some people would even argue he sets the totals market in college basketball. Would you agree with that?
That's good for him, but I mean, he does sell a service, so I'm sure he's just doing that to make money. Listen, I don't knock the guy. Seems like a nice guy. He's obviously doing his thing, but I put a lot of time into what I do. I put a lot of time into the work I do. I feel good about what I know. When someone comes to me and says Ken Palm says this, Ken Palm says that, that's great. I mean, but to me, he's not. I care a lot more about others' opinions as opposed to his. I care more about like the people that are around the programs, the people that are entrenched in the programs, beat writers, people like that. Ken Palm just goes off statistical stuff and that kind of thing. He's very educational for people. For me, I do a lot of work here. I feel like the info that I'm working with, I've always had just some success with it. I'm not saying he doesn't dictate the markets. That's fine. I don't bet a lot of totals to begin with, but Clemson's a team that I think, and this is a great conversation because this guy's mentioning Clemson's 22 with Ken Palm. Again, we have to remember that's up until this point. If you based everything off of what happened by Christmas in college basketball, I mean, you'd have 300 teams in the tournament. I mean, you have to remember a lot of some of these. Look at Georgetown. Their record's really good, but they've like played one team with a winning record. So you have to look at schedules and really look into them. Clemson's a team that does this every year. That's why TCU. I don't get too high on TCU because they do a lot of this every year. They'll go 11 or 12-0 to start the season, and then they'll struggle to make the tournament. Clemson's the same team. I don't think Brad Brunell is a winner. I just don't. I never have. He's always out on the bubble every season. Sometimes he makes it, sometimes he doesn't. You have a nice win against Florida on your schedule. Cool. Again, that is a good win, but who knows how good it'll be long term. They've had some good wins. I'm not going to knock Clemson. All I'm saying is don't look at something on Christmas and say, wow, I'm going to bet on this team long term. They're probably going to let you down. I'm not knocking KenPom. I just don't read it personally.
Okay. And yeah, Big Man and I will be back every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, going over kind of stuff like this, but also picks on that night's slate. So we'll be having I guess more bets to throw out there. But Big Man, you said you wanted two more and we only did one more. So which way you want to go with this last topic here?
I'll answer the Trey Young question here. Can Trey Young carry Oklahoma to a title? Um, Listen, I don't think there's been a bigger fan of this kid than me. If many know, I'm a big recruiting guy. Thought he was the best shooter coming in from this class, and he has been absolutely magnificent. But you have to ask yourself, he reminds you a lot of what Buddy Hield was supposed was to do for Oklahoma. He got them really far, but no one else stepped up. Do they have guys who can step up? Yes. This is a really good basketball team. If they can get people to continue to step up like they're getting, Brady Manick hit threes, Kadeem Latin and Christian James and Odoms and Magusti. If they can get all those guys to continue to step up and give them stuff. Christian Doolittle hasn't played much. They're going to get him back into the fold as well. Listen, I think they're a really, really good basketball team. If they can continue to get this production all year, and they can go in and beat Oregon and go in and beat Wichita in Wichita and beat USC, yeah, I do think they can. I think they're better than TCU. I think they're really pretty much better than everyone. The question is, can they dethrone the big boys? Because Kansas is just as good, and they're going to get healthier as well. They're going to get these D'Souza's and Billy Preston's healthy. But to me, it's a two-horse race up at the top in the Big 12. It's Oklahoma, it's Kansas. I got Oklahoma at 80 to 1 to win the whole thing. I'm pumped up about it. I love Young. I mean, Drew, the numbers he's putting up is unbelievable. 29 points a game, over 10 assists per game. The only concern is if he gets hurt, because last year, I'm not saying Creighton was the same team, but Creighton had a very similar situation. Maurice Watson was like 40% of their offense. Even, I mean, less than Trae Young is, but he went down. They were a Final Four candidate, in my opinion. Justin Patton, with all those guys, he went down. They were just kind of just another team. It's always about that injury thing. It's like the Eagles. You know, they're riding through the NFL. Wentz gets injured, and now look, they might make the Super Bowl, but it's definitely a bigger question mark. Trae Young, they go as Trae Young goes. They need some more. They need to keep people step up here. But yeah, I think they can definitely do some big things this year. It's Oklahoma, it's Kansas. They're the class of the Big 12.
Oklahoma and Kansas in the Big 12, big man. Hey, just wanted to read a couple of these in the live chat at the end here. We got Two Chains, Blue, Malestinho, Allert, all these guys saying, BMOC, they respect your opinion. You know it as good as anybody. The last question I have for you, BMOC, obviously there's a want, a motivation for you, in particular, college basketball betting. Pretty much anybody just even watching this show can tell. You know it as good as anybody. What are the things you look for and that motivate you in actually winning in college basketball betting, which I know you are this year? Can you just say a couple things you do on the side that maybe a young guy out there watching, or an older guy that has a job that just kind of wants a new hobby and get into this a little bit more on the college basketball hardwood? Any advice for him out there?
I would just say, put the time into it. I obviously am in a different situation than a lot of people. I can literally sit here and just go through every team. And you have to be willing, and this is weird to say and dumb to say, but Drew, you have to be willing to put other things off. I remember exactly the situation I'm talking about. I remember being at the shore this summer. I have jet skis. I have a beach very close to me. I can go out and go to a casino. But for me, like, I would sit there every day and do the work that I had to do. You have to, it's very stupid, but you have to just sit there and put the time in. Learn about the teams, have a good memory. You can't teach a good memory. You either have one or you don't. But, just kind of getting around people that are good. I'm not saying I'm the best. I don't claim to be, but I can honestly say I'll put my info up against anybody in this business. You have to be willing to put the time in. Keep notes. I mean, I buy these notebooks and write everything down. I sit here, I watch the games. For instance, you're very, very funny. The other day, I had no play on the game, but there was a game I was watching the other day. It was like, why am I watching this game? But I'm thinking to myself, because at some point I'm going to need to know certain things about this team. And for me, you can't you got to go out and watch these teams. You got to go out, and my life is college basketball. I've given my life to it. When winter comes, I literally set up shop and I do this. And sports is my life. I mean, I love it. I enjoy it. But there's no joy to me. Like if betting went away and college basketball was all I had left, I'd be okay with it because I generally love it. I could sit there and watch it. I have a passion for it. And I would just say, it's tough for a lot of people, but if you're a young person like, me a couple years ago, just sit there, don't worry about the other shit. You're going to have to tell no to people and you're going to have to do things that you don't want to do, but you might want to go out and do something else. But Drew, I remember you and I remember in the summer we were doing those campus connection videos, doing the breakdowns of the teams, because in November, December, when it gets busy, you have the leg up because I know there's a lot of people that are going to come in to college basketball this week and they're going to start from scratch. Not me. I've already been in it. I'm in profit. I'm in profit 20 units already. I don't need to, I'm just sitting here, and I have a leg up. So put the time in. That's what I'll tell you. Put things off to do the work. It's like a job. Make it like a job.
Good stuff, big man. I mean, you obviously know it as good as anybody. Giving out the content like you just did, college basketball betting wise. We'll be doing this every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern going forward. Give him a follow on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. He is the big man on campus, one of the best minds in the college basketball betting arena. Big man, anything else before we close this out?
No, I actually I think this is a great forum for people. I urge everyone. There's a lot of great things in SBR. I mean, a lot of things coming up in the future. You got to get out. You have literally someone for anything you want on here. If you want basketball, we'll help you. You want hockey. There's people for that. We have soccer coverage. So and that's one other thing I would tell you, Drew. I've seen a lot of people on SBR and on other Twitter and stuff. They literally bet every sport, like every sport. My goal is to find one or two or three that work for me and just stick to those. I have enough stuff to worry about. I can't. Someone on here said big man would be great, but he can't cap hockey. And it's like because I don't know anything about it. I'm not going to sit here and cover stuff I don't know. I like soccer. I like college football a little bit, and I like basketball. Those are the things that I enjoy, and um, you know, don't try to cap every single sport. It's you're setting yourself up for a lot of heartache doing that.
Yeah, man. I'll just follow that up by saying it's just like any business, whatever business you're in, stick to what you know. That's how you can make money.
Yeah.
When you start just going off on any little tangent, that's when you start to
And
see
people
your
sound
bankroll
stupid
go
when
away.
people sound stupid talking about stuff they don't know about. You could tell when someone doesn't know what they're doing. If I just have someone here and they're just reading the screen, it doesn't. It's not good. It's not. You're kind of letting people down. If you're a mechanic, you shouldn't be telling people how to make a stir fry. You're not a chef. You're a mechanic. Go work on your cars. Just stay in your lane, and that'll be that's how it works.
Absolutely, man. Well, great stuff, big man. Look forward to next Tuesday, 3. We'll also be on together tomorrow for the roundtable along with Donnie Rightside and Ian Cameron. But yeah, for Big Man on Campus, follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. Great follow for college basketball and other things. I'm Drew Martin. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thank you.